welcome back for another little episode of Joy's for Stories. And on today, well, it's not really an episode. This is more like let's talk about it. Let's just go ahead and get this out the way and talk about it because some things in the world of coverage, especially media coverage, especially in the WNBA, have been bothering me, and I feel like I need to get some things off my chest. So the turmoil, we're gonna have we're gonna have a little WNBA sit down. So let's go ahead and talk about it. The turmoil in a, as far as media coverage, coverage, who gets the most attention, it's an absolute disgrace. I'm gonna be the one to say it. It's an absolute disgrace. I know what Caitlin Clark is, and a lot of this stems from her. But there is so much going on in the world of women's basketball to be paying attention to than a team that's won 2 games. And actually, they are something to pay attention for, but we'll get back to that in a few minutes. But between Stephen A. Smith, who done lost his goddamn mind, and other people speaking on things that they really don't know about because they're just now tuning in, I think it's time that we need to have a talk about it because we need to talk about it. Let's talk about Caitlin Clark. I know Caitlin Clark mania. I'm glad that the WNBA is getting this type of coverage. I'm glad, right? Because of her. Partially it is because of her. The game was starting to grow regardless because of Asia Wilson. People like to forget about that. Asia Wilson has been doing this for a minute. She how many MVPs? How many rings she got? Okay. So 3 years ago when it was starting to turn the tables, it was her. But now we have this 3-point shooting sensation in Caitlin Clark. We're really turning up the notch. And it really started with that national championship game, like Angel Reese said. But, that's neither here or there. But with Caitlin Clark, I want to keep this very simple. She is a rookie in a professional league. So all these people, these idiots, these these basketball players, the men, the they're trying to say that they're hating on her for one dirty play. It's been very competitive against her. What in the hell? What professional league that you know is going easy on rookies? Let's have some common sense before we just say they're hating on her. Diana Taurasi and a couple of others said that there was a learning curve, yet everybody was on their ass talking about how they're hating on Caitlin Clark and how they don't think she's going to do well and da 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 da. No, there's a learning curve in the WNBA, just like there's a learning curve in the actual NBA or in the or in the MLB or in the NFL. In any other professional league, there is a learning curve. They were just warning her about that, and she's facing that now. They weren't hating on her. It's just that the WNBA is very physical. They've been doing this. Go look at some of the highlights from back then. They are very physical. They're more physical than some of these men in these NBA teams. Let's keep it a buck. If we're going to be completely honest, let's keep it a buck. Two, she is not on a well-built, well-coached team. Identity-wise, the Fever are confused. Again, we'll get back into that later. But this whole thing about Caitlin Clark and people hating on her and people, they just don't want her to succeed. My dudes, I'm talking to the Gilbert Arenases, the Gilberts, the everybody else who's had some dumb stuff to say about people hating on Caitlin Clark. It's a professional league. You're not playing people in high school. You're playing against grown ass women with kids and mouths to feed. They're gonna get competitive. They're gonna get chippy. They're gonna make it hard for her. Just like the NBA do with grown ass men. Let's have some common sense instead of letting our fandom blindside our ass. Have some common sense. It's a professional league. Now, if y'all thought that was something, Stephen A. Smith, granted, he's hilarious. I will say he's hilarious. He can be quite funny. But the one thing he did in this circumstance, he went full clown. And the one thing you don't do is you don't go full clown. First, was this is what started it because he got checked by Monica McNutt for giving for saying that he's given the WNBA a platform and da 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 da, when he could have did it 3 years ago when the tables were turned, but he didn't want to, so he didn't. Instead of doing what his counterpart did and in actually having the nuanced conversation and having her explain herself further and actually respecting her opinion and whatnot, his clown ass turned around, go on his stupid ass show, talking about how nobody would know Monica McNutt if it wasn't for him, which is an absolute lie. Let's get that out. Let's get that out here. It's a lie. Monica McNutt played the game. She could ball too. She didn't go to the WNBA. She didn't want to. She covers the game, both men and women, extremely well. And she's also a studio analyst for the Knicks. And you know, Stephen A., that's your own team, bro. Your own team don't play about her. The Knicks fans do not play about Monica McNutt. If you haven't seen, look at it on Twitter. He really decided to show the world exactly what string of words he is. And I don't like having to get down like that very often. But in this case, when you do that and then turn around and do that and then act like the next day ain't nothing happening, you didn't say what you said on your stupid show, there's a word for that. There's a few words for that. He is an egotistical buffoon with who is full of hot air and who reeks of an egotistical. Hold on, let me get it right. Because I have all my words together. He's an egotistical buffoon who reeks of hot air, who's full of hot air and reeks of a hyperinflated sense of superiority, who refuses to be wrong, and who is absolutely brazen with the audacity to indirectly or directly disrespect anybody with or without regard. In short terms, in layman's term, he's a clown, a single clown. He is an idiot. If Shannon Sharp had the decency to have the conversation and understand the gist, it shows that he's open-minded and willing to learn. Stephen A. Smith just wants to defend his damn self for every goddamn reason when people poke his ass wrong. When people poke holes in his rhetoric. And then he has this little, oh, I made you thing. We all came from somewhere. We all came from somewhere. Why are you saying that on YouTube? She wouldn't, nobody would know her except for if I didn't give her a platform. And da 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 da. Just sounding like a fool. Because you're mad because she called you out on your BS. Like that really pissed me off. Between Stephen A. Smith doing that and then the other people saying everybody's hating on Caitlin Clark. When ain't nobody hating on Caitlin Clark. She's a rookie. She's supposed to be a top of the face rookie. They're gonna make life hard for her. Like, didn't nobody make life hard for y'all when y'all was rookies? I'm sorry. But I don't think now one of y'all had y'all's feet on the table, kicked up, chilling. Somebody made it hard for you. Don't act like that they're hating on her because they're making it hard for her. That's their job. Next, instead of just focusing on Caitlin Clark this and Trinity Carter that, now I will say the play by Trinity Carter was a foul play, and she does have a reputation of being a little over emotional. But Teresa Weatherspoon can get that up out of her. But I do know I still have hope in Trinity, but she needs to calm down. And she's been on his now what she's been doing, that's hating. Not what everybody else has been doing. What she's been doing or what she's been saying, that's hating in my eye. Now, some people may disagree, but that's hating in my eye. Now, instead of focusing on Caitlin Clark and Trinity Carter, here are a few things that we could focus on that's going on in the WNBA. And if it sounds like I'm trying to be a smartass, it's because I am. We could be focusing on Asia Wilson and the Aces, who are 4-2. In 6 games, Wilson is averaging 26.5 points per game, 12.5 rebounds per game, 2.8 blocks per game, and on 48.4% shooting. Again, she has a few MVPs for a reason. The Aces are 4-2. They're rolling. They've had a loss against they've had a pretty, it was coming from the Dream. The Dream looked good too. And Jackie Young for the Aces is a good addition. The Minnesota Lynx, who were tragic last year, they're 6-2, 6-3 as well. Nafisa Collier, she's averaging 21.4 points per game and 11.2 rebounds per game. And if you're paying attention, if you're watching the Lynx, you can also see that Elisa Pili is about to start getting rolling, and she looks really good right now. She needs more minutes, and if she does get her minutes, she may play her way into a starting spot. I mean, if we're not paying attention to Caitlin Clark, there's other talent, right? Correct. Let's pay attention to the Seattle Storm, who, like I said, if you paid attention to George Sports Stories, the audio version, link in the bio, to last year, one of the episodes, I said they needed to get Jewel Lloyd some help. Well, they went and got her some help, and now look at where they're at. Shocker. Skylar Diggins Smith is playing very well. A true facilitator, which is what they needed. The Fever. Now, I'm not supposed to be talking about bad teams, but you need to pay attention to their incompetence and what may happen to their coach, who has no clue what she's doing, with numerous top 10 picks. You have two number one picks in Boston and in Clark. And you can't figure out how to make it work with them two. I know they play a different style. Aaliyah's a post up player. Um Miss Clark is a shooter whose defense needs some work. But pick and roll. You can run a form of a pick and roll. You can have an offense run through Aaliyah and still get Caitlin Clark her touches. There's incompetence going on in Indianapolis, and I'm not talking about the Colts for once. Their coach doesn't know what to do, what she's doing. They can't figure out how to win. And when they're losing, like getting beat by 30, bro, they at least look like they had a pulse last year. And Aaliyah can't do everything on defense. They have too many ball dominant players. They're not very well built either. So the Fever is a cluster bump of a mess, and it's interesting to watch to see how Christy Sykes and her job security status goes. But that's neither here nor there. That was just my little quick rant session because that's really been ticking me off. And a lot of things have also been ticking me off. But stay tuned. This weekend, I will have my NFL video schedule release video with my predictions way too early as we get into mini camps and mandatory OTAs and whatnot. But if you like what you heard, click the link in the description to follow Jory Sports Stories everywhere. Thank you. Have a good one.